Hey, everybody. Let me explain to you what you're about to see. Yesterday, I interviewed my longtime friend, Alameda County Supervisor Nate Miley, District 4. And in one segment of our conversation, which ranged from COVID-19 in the Coliseum to Howard Terminal in the Coliseum, we talked about the redevelopment process that's proposed for Howard Terminal. And I asked if the City of Oakland had approached him and other supervisors to discuss with them the amount of money that they would be losing from that Howard Terminal District in terms of property tax payments. They're normally split between the City of Oakland, the County of Alameda, BART, AC Transit, and the EBMUD Flood Control District. And this is what he said.
That's the reality we're dealing with, and we have to do everything we can to see if we can negotiate a good deal. On the city, we'll have to do that for Howard Terminal. But at the end of the day, if they can't, I know the A's are doing it. The A's, it's a business, and if the A's want to take it somewhere else, and they can get from the Las Vegas, which they probably can, and the state of Nevada, billions of dollars to build a stadium. Maybe that's what they'll end up doing because the owners want to do that.
Well, I got to ask you, has the city talked with you about basically taxing agencies and how the county will be impacted by a district at Howard Terminal? Because the old saw, basically we used to engineer pass-through agreements, right? When you're going to do tax increment financing. Well, we're back to that again, but I don't see any evidence the city has calculated that. I have approached that. I have, but I don't see where the city has done squat. Tell me I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong. The city has approached us, but they haven't given us the numbers. We're waiting for the numbers. So, so they say they have, and I can only take them at face value.
Oh, dude,
we haven't gotten the numbers yet to analyze.
Isn't that Nate? I've done this for decades. Isn't that a little bass-awkward? You gotta have the numbers first, right? I mean, come on. It's like you said it, I didn't, right? I'm just happy to but you said they didn't have any numbers. What do they have? Like straw people? It's like
maybe. Like I said, we haven't seen the numbers, but they tell us they have the numbers. So we're just, as a county, we're waiting to get those numbers so we can analyze it.
Wow. So they haven't shared the tax increment revenue potential with you?
No.
What?
No.
I'll send you my numbers. My numbers are better than theirs, especially since they ain't got none. I mean, oh, wow. Now, I stopped that right there to note this. He just said something. He volunteered something that is explosive. Supervisor Miley said that no numbers, after I asked, no numbers were provided. The city of Oakland had not given them, I'm not going to say not done, but the city hasn't given them any calculations. Now, normally when you don't give someone in this parlance your tax increment financing revenue calculations, it generally means you haven't done them. Now, the A's have, but they didn't do it right either. That's another story. You can't negotiate on the matter of tax revenue impact without numbers. You can't do it with just words. You have to have actual numbers. Because the county could turn around and say, well, give me my 35% chunk. When, in point of fact, tax increment financing is a doubling formula, they'll get more money than they actually deserve. So you need to actually have the numbers on hand. This is yet another example of the kind of mishandling the City of Oakland has done with respect to this project, and it's also another example of the sad fact that my longtime friend and god sister, Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, has not learned anything from the Raiders issue. Rather than having a task force of people who represent the community, business community, people who know what's going on, like myself, once again, she relies on her staff internally, which is not the norm for projects like this. And so what you get and what you're trapped with is a staff that is going to give you the wrong information because they don't know any better and there's nobody in the room to counter them. There's no one in the room to counter them. But then there's this other question. Why would the mayor continue on the same process that didn't work in the context of the Raiders? And also, another question. How much of this problem exists because it appears that the city may be paid by the athletics in terms of staff time and costs, which would explain why the city has allowed the Oakland Athletics to draw up the boundaries, that's outside SB 293 Skinner, which doesn't say the Oakland Athletics are supposed to do that. It implies the city is supposed to draw up the boundaries and create a new redevelopment agency. Why is Dave Cobble allowed to essentially speak for not just the A's, but imply he's speaking for the entire city on the split between revenues the A's put into the project and infrastructure spending monies? The A's are supposed to pay a property tax annually that ignites tax increment financing process so that we can float a bond issue against these expected future revenues. You don't wait for the revenues to grow. Anyone who tells you that doesn't know what they're doing. Las Vegas didn't do that in the context of their bond issue. And their bond issue source, hotel tax revenue, is far less robust than property tax revenue. So I don't want to hear that. This is a crisis. This is a crisis of competence, and I'm saying it just like that. This is shameful. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com.